Y'all familiar with the term remix culture? It's sort of a popular term these days. It's used to describe the propensity that we have as people and as a society to take pre-existing things and either mash them together with other pre-existing things. So like, think donair, pizza donair? Or to edit pre-existing things together. So think meme culture. Typically, near the beginning of these Songs We Pray videos, we'll kind of flash the title of the song that we're talking about along the bottom of the screen, along with the names of the songwriters. It's a little bit challenging, though, in this scenario, since the song that we're talking about today is, well, it's sort of a remix or a mashup of two different songs, and we typically just call it around here, Your Love Changes Everything. Back in April of 2018, when Pastor Joel was approaching the celebration of his first full year leading us as a church, he preached a series that sort of doubled as a vision cast for where we were heading as a community. By now, if you've worshiped with us at all, you can probably guess what the series was called. Because Love Changes Everything. And of course, its tagline was, God's love in us to the world, the vision and the mission that fuel and guide us to this day. In the weeks and months leading up to those inaugural addresses, we knew that we wanted a song that we could sing, a prayer that we could pray, that would help translate those words into our hearts. That is, of course, part of what corporate worship does, right? Through the use of melody and harmony, through the use of rhythm and through action, we engage with what are sometimes just these abstract concepts, words. And we have them shuffled on down to our bodies and, in a sense, to our hearts. Maybe you've noticed this, maybe you haven't. But I believe this is actually part of the genius behind the way that Joel closes our worship services. The fancy term would be benediction. God's love in us to the world. Why? Because love changes everything. So we not only speak our calling, but we rehearse it, we enact it, we visualize it, embody it. It works whether you're 5 or 105, it works. So back in the spring of 2018, when looking for a song that might fit the bill for us, we discovered not merely one, but two. The majority of the song that we do is originally a piece called Your Love Changes Everything. It's by United Pursuit. But what we treat as the bridge, the section of the song that bridges typically back into the chorus, the bridge, well, that's actually the chorus of a whole other song that's originally called Love Changes Everything, and that's by Red Rocks Worship. So if you're the kind of person who pays attention to detail, you might have noticed that we always end up having the bridge of the song led by a different person than the one leading the remainder. The change of the physical voice is kind of intended in a sense to reflect the change of perspective in the song. So the verses and the choruses are us addressing God. Lord, you spoke those words, and I choose to believe that you love me. You're taking me by the hand again, giving me strength to dance again. Your love changes everything. But when we hit the bridge, then the lyrics shift rather to us addressing one another invitationally. So come out into the water. Come, let the broken sing. Come, all you sons and daughters. His love changes everything. So there you have it. If you have ever kind of tilted your head to the side a little and pondered that shift or had a hard time Googling this version of this song, now you know why. This song has been led more than 15 Sundays since it was first introduced to the church, which makes it a relatively high rotation song by our standards, but I hope you can see it's with good reason. Now, all that makes for kind of more of a behind the music style episode than these videos are typically, but in light of the nature of how we arrived at this particular song that we pray, it seemed valuable, I think, to be able to share a little bit of that story, of that journey. The one closing thought, though, I'd like to leave you with here is this. Pay attention to the word everything, both when we pray the song and when we declare our mission at the end of the service. Everything. Now, depending upon your wiring, you may be inclined to externalize that word. When you say it, you mean everything out there. Change the world, stop injustices, reform our societies, heal our land. Or you may be inclined to internalize the word everything and naturally look inside for how God's love will change your own behaviors, your own inclinations, your own heart. In the immortal words of the philosopher Forrest Gump, maybe it's both. Rather, we as a church affirm that it's both. God's love redefines and recreates the whole cosmos, including structures and systems, his kingdom, and yet he seems to do so through changing his people, one heart at a time. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree so that the birds come and perch in its branches. And he told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like the yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough. It starts small, but it doesn't stay small. God's love in us to the world, because his love changes everything. God's love changes everyone and everything.